Does that make sense? All right, so now you're going to do a group exercise. And the other things were child's play. This is where we separate you into, you know, the contenders or something. All right, on the next slide, I'm going to give you a set of examples to pick. And you're going to, in your group, come to some sort of quick agreement about which one to pick. This is not your dissertation topic. You do not need to think. This is just an exercise for a few minutes. Nothing will happen. Just pick one. Then you need to figure out the source and the target domain. The source, again, just ask yourself, this kind of language is normally used to describe what? Is it normally used to describe food? Is it normally used to describe temperature? Are these temperature words? Are these motion words? Are these, yeah? And the target is, what am I attempting to explain? What is the topic I'm covering here? The source domain is always going to be the tangible thing. The target domain is always going to be the ephemeral ideal thing. Then you're going to free associate about the source domain. What do we know about viruses? Well, we know that they're infectious. We know that some of them can be prevented. We know that there's hand washing. We know that some of them can't be, right? You're going to free associate about the source without thinking about the target. Just, what do we know about viruses? Or what do we know about food? Yeah? Then you're going to say, okay, that set of things about viruses, do I want that to be translated onto people's understanding of crime? Does that help me or does it hurt me in terms of what I want to convey? And then you're going to make an evaluation and say, I like this metaphor, it's good, it's working. Because working in this situation just means it's conveying the set of things I want my audience to understand. That's all working means, right? And then, we won't do this here, but if you think it's not working, it's not a good metaphor, come up with an alternative. Yeah? Okay. Everybody understand the instructions? All right. Here are your choices. So you're going to pick either option A, which has 3 examples in it, option B, which has 2, option C, etc. Yeah? So pick an example in your group, and then do the steps. I'm going to keep this up for a minute while you guys are choosing, and then I'll move it back to instructions once you've selected. And we're going to pause here for you guys to do this. Now we're going to report back. Team this table. Did you guys get a team name for yourselves?
Didn't get that far now.
That wasn't one of the instructions, so it's okay. All right, what did you pick?
We went with option E.
Option E. Okay, and how do children perform in school? Concerned about student performance. Students are trained to succeed. And what is the source here?
I thought the source was athletics, or even maybe like an organizational frame.
Yeah, or it could be theater, right? Just like an activity in which there is sort of a set expectation and outcome. And the target domain they're trying to talk about
Education.
Yeah. And so what did you think? What are things we associate with performance?
So I think the main thing we talked about was that this is kind of forcing like a win-loss frame. Mm-hmm. Like some students will be relatively winners and some will be relatively losers, and it's not very developmental, and it kind of makes it forces everyone into competition.
Yeah. And it's also, it suggests with performance that there is a prescribed notion. Like, you know, you said the line, you didn't say the line. Like, you scored the touchdown. This is where I get into trouble, because I don't really think about sports, so I should not go in this direction. But like, you know, it went in, it didn't go in. Which is, of course, not how, as you mentioned, it's not developmental. It's not actually how the process of brain development and sort of learning actually occurs. Learning is different for different people. We're trying to do different things with it. We do it in different ways toward different ends. And so this really confines, I mean, this just feeds back into this kind of skill and drill. You can do a thing to all kids. They should all be uniform. They come down on a conveyor belt, and then you can like stick a sticker on their butt that says inspected by whatever, and no child is left behind. I mean, that's what this is. So did you go to the next level and try to come up with a better metaphor?
I think kind of the developmental idea was about as far as we got, but
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll go next because we did the same one.
Awesome.
So we did the same thing of association with work, no creativity, rigidity, and then some of the metaphors we thought about creating. That we're both former educators.
Okay.
So education is a gift or a treasure, and then choose your own adventure, like a path. Education is like
Yeah. So there's a very strong journey metaphor in education, children, and in fact, the program Head Start actually emerges from that journey, as does the language of life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. So life as a journey is one of the foundational metaphors that we have, not just in English, but in most languages. And the journey metaphor in education is one that does absolutely allow for different paths and different outcomes. And yeah, well done. Another group? Did everybody choose E? Yeah, what'd you guys choose?
We did option B.
B, okay, dependent on fossil fuels, curb our addiction to oil. So what is the source domain?
We were thinking it was kind of like a drugs.
That's right, it's drugs.
Drugs thing, yeah.
And it's trying to talk about, I mean, it's pretty literal.
Fossil fuels.
Yeah, fossil fuels.
Oil.
Sometimes this exercise is hard because you're trying to it's just literally what's on the words there. You don't have to yeah. So it's using a metaphor of drug use to talk about the usage of fossil fuels. And what did you think about that?
I think the metaphor of the dependency in the drug addiction kind of implies that our fossil fuel, our relationship to fossil fuel is there's a lack of agency that the person holds, and that because it's medicalized, it's also almost naturalizes the process. So it's harder for us to think of an alternative or create a visioning of an alternative reality.
Yeah, I hate this metaphor. When you think about what it takes to get off of highly addictive drugs, right? So it's not pretty. You need rehab. You generally go through violent illness. It's very, 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 very hard, right? Our understanding of curbing an addiction is very hard. And so what this does is it, if you'll forgive the pun, sort of raises the temperature or raises the, this idea that stopping using fossil fuels, basically they're it's going to be the worst thing that ever happened to you, and you're going to need methadone, and you're going to be vomiting and shaking, and it's going to be like that but worse because there won't be rehab. And even though I'm not a fool, obviously I think it is going to be difficult, I don't think that that's the message we need to be sending, right? I think that a far more effective metaphor we've seen is this idea of fossil foolishness. Really, yeah, we did this. We used dinosaur poop for a really long time. That was a thing we did. We don't do that anymore. As opposed to this is gonna be so hard! This is another variation on the we're the losing team. This thing we want you to do, it's gonna be so hard! Yeah.
Where's the line between not sending the wrong message, using something that's a little bit more positive but something that's not overly optimistic, right? Classic example that people talk about is the 2008 presidential yes we can.
Yeah. I'm going to talk a lot about that. I know I keep saying that,
Yeah,
but I promise that it is true. So we're going to talk about where is that line between pessimism and optimism.
Okay.
It is not where we're drawing it right now. I'll give you that as a preview. It's a great question. Okay. So, not loving this. Did you come up with an alternative? It's okay. I told you the
We didn't
alternative.
really get that part. The biggest thing that we were thinking about was if you frame it as an addiction, then the solutions might seem like it's just like rehab and just not being addicted, versus actually being able to think of something, a new solution that might not even be in the realm of addicted, not addicted.
Yep. Yeah, and it also, as you said, there's no agent. Each individual is addicted to their gas guzzler, as opposed to Chevron actively sort of wiping away alternative energy sources and research about them and so on, right? There's no I guess they're, in this metaphor, maybe they're the drug pusher. I guess they're the dealer. Okay, another group? Yeah.
We did option A.
Option A.
And we identified the source as conduits, the shipping industry and waterways.
That's exactly right. Good job.
Woo. So what we pointed to is that
In order to talk about,
the prison industrial complex.
right, the
incarceration.
carceral system.
And so part of our criticism for this is that it characterizes, it paints kind of a mindless system that has no actors either within it or without it, and that looking at water as sort of a conglomeration rather than individual actors, which means that you're dehumanizing people in a system that you're critiquing for being dehumanizing.
That's right. Wow, you're stealing my job. So what's the better thing?
We had trouble finding anything better that wasn't too literal. In thinking about this, it was we didn't get that far because it was hard to not just think about awful actors and human rights violations and other things that were just parallel to human rights violations.
Yeah, I mean, I won't delve too far into it because I somehow need to make up lots of time. But the single most potent thing that we have found to say about prison is where we separate people from their families. Our choice to separate more people from their families, our choice to drive people from their families. For, I think, obvious reasons. I won't belabor why that is more effective. I could say more about this. On my website, there's cheat sheets, including one on what to say about incarceration. Okay, yes?
Is that also true of immigration?
Yeah. Yeah, that's what's going on here. Immigrants are being likened to animals. I'm shortcutting, I realize. This is very bad. And this is advocacy discourse, by the way. Everything on this slide is advocacy. It's not opposition. There's going to be answers on the website. We're going to put up answers to all of these. So if you're not